Gun. What? Gun. Oh. What? Like a handgun for personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle and a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Check for the cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
It is Tuesday. We are live. It is Primer Time. My name is Michael.
I'm Nick, and it's good to be back.
Nick, it's good to hear you. I'm exhausted. What's going on with you?
You would think after a 4-day weekend you would feel refreshed. I feel like I need a week of vacation.
I'll trade you that week of vacation for just like a couple hours of air conditioning.
Yeah, that's one thing I do have, so I guess that's a small miracle.
All right, so I'd like to give best wishes to our fellow Texans in the middle of all the water mess. May you recover. That's been some amazing nature, has it not?
Yeah, and Texas was in a drought for forever, and all of a sudden they can't figure out why the ground is too hard and the water won't dissolve.
Well, we may have solved that drought in a matter of about a week, because everything is pretty much moist and absorbing, not necessarily absorbing it, but it's got enough standing water on it to where it's eventually gonna work its way through.
Yeah, it's going to loosen up some of that clay and all that good stuff.
Right. Well, to be honest with you, I've had standing water in my yard almost continuously since November. So, and it being as late in the year as we are, that's a lot of water. So I have a feeling it's going to be a very, very wet year for us.
Yeah, I just remember I heard something about a couple hours ago. They said that the Houston area got 11 inches of rain in like 6 hours.
Yeah, there was tornado warnings for there. There's been tornado warnings throughout all of South Texas. The Trinity River in Dallas was supposedly 42 feet deep, and 350 homes lost in San Marcos. And
yeah, but they were probably found in Bernie, so don't worry about it.
I would almost guess that those houses that were lost in San Marcos were stolen and are somewhere in the state of Coahuila right now.
Yeah. Oh goodness. Well, speaking of Coahuila, I am doing my best to involve the Mexicans that we have aligned with our show because I'm drinking a Dos Equis. So salute
to the green bottles and one of our potential sponsors.
We're hoping. We're hoping.
So while we're on the subject of Mexico, a few weeks ago, we discussed some violence that had happened in the state of Jalisco with the new Juarez, the Juarez cartel, New Generation.
Yeah, Nueva Generacion. Yeah.
That's right. You remember discussing that?
Sure do.
Interesting update in this story. It appears that the Mexican Marines have engaged the CJNG and decimated them at something like a score of 42-3.
Wow.
And so it appears that the war's on now. This leads us to a discussion of, the current political rhetoric of Americans' gun rights are fueling the cartel wars in Mexico, and you know, there was a helicopter shot down with an RPG.
That tends
That
to
did
end
not.
in a bad way. Yeah.
Well, Nicholas, I mean, let's talk about what an RPG is for a second, and whether or not, number one, the United States military uses it. Could it be a contraband United States military item? And number two, where would such an item like that come from? An RPG-7.
Yeah, so you're talking about a rocket propelled grenade. This is a Soviet design. This is not, recent technology. This is 60s, 70s type equipment. Mostly seen during the Vietnam War and has been proliferated around the world. That's not something we hold in our current U.S. military inventory. And to even imply that that is coming out of the United States to be used in a war for the cartels against the federal government of Mexico, that's laughable to me. I mean,
Now, would you assume that something like this was either produced maybe in Russia or in China? I would almost put money on China, considering that they've got the greatest ability to produce small arms throughout the world, and with the most rapidness.
well, you got to figure anything that was a former Soviet or Warsaw Pact era piece of small arms equipment was usually site licensed to be, produced by a number of the 11 governments that made up that pact. So, then you figure out that, hey, China can go ahead and reverse engineer anything that they get their hands on and turn it into their own model. So, it's not a stretch to say either way.
All right. Well, I would almost put money on on it being of Chinese origin, just due to honestly, the pure amount of shipping that occurs between China and Mexico. It's almost a sea highway.
Right. And speaking of sea highways, have you been following what China has been doing for the last so many years and months in the Spratly Islands?
I've seen how they've been raising extinct islands, so to speak, islands that have been worn away by erosion and the action of the waves, and they've been rebuilding them and reclaiming them as their own.
Yeah, so that presents a big problem in terms of maritime trade and freedom of navigation. That's one of the things you'll hear folks on the news talk about, especially if you listen to any of the Pentagon briefs. That's one of the things that the U.S. Navy is very, very concerned about is China's ability to impact freedom of navigation throughout that area, and that happens to
Well,
be.
I'll tell you, worrying about China impacting the freedom of navigation is a little bit, the horse has already left the barn.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. There's a number of association of Southeast Asian nations that really depend on that maritime thoroughfare in order to go ahead and conduct trade. And we used to have a very strong defense partnership with the Philippines. And have you seen what the Philippines has basically been resorting to?
I've seen something about the Chinese have rammed through several. It's described the Filipino vessels as armored fishing boats.
Right. So
Armored with tires and such.
yeah, they've had a couple of news reports about not only happening against the Philippines, but also against Vietnam, where the Chinese are ramming these boats from these other Southeast Asian nations. But one of the things that the Philippines is doing is they've got a derelict ship in one of the Spratly Island shoals, and that's the outlying edge of the Republic of the Philippines. They've got.
They've nationalized a ship.
Well, not only nationalize the ship, what they have is it's a landing ship tank. So imagine a very large shipping tank from World War II vintage that has been intentionally run aground. It doesn't have any power. The ship is derelict, but it does have a contingent of Filipino Marines on board, and as long as that vessel is, you know, grounded on that shoal, that's sovereign Filipino land.
Well, okay, so what's the number in this contingent of Filipino Marines?
Very, very few. I wouldn't
Like,
be I wouldn't be wise to say, how many, but I can tell you that the Chinese are biding their time.
w- just for like, let's give a round number, like far less than 100. Is
Oh
that
yes,
correct?
yes, far less.
Would it be fair to say far less than 50?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, all right. Well then,
I think from
less
the from
than.
the Associated Press report I saw, it was a very, very small contingent, and these Filipino Marines are totally dependent upon resupply. So they have exhausted all of their own, organic material that they brought with them, and
How
they're
long have they been there?
I don't know how long they've been there, but I'll tell you what.
Because this doesn't sound like a strategic maneuver for a country. This sounds like almost a national tragedy.
Well, it is.
Help
The problem is,
help the poor Filipino sailors stuck on a sandbar.
well, and that's really what it comes down to. Is you hear about what happened when Subic Bay, as a Navy base, and Clark Air Base, that we had the Air Force Station at, when Mount Pinatubo blew up. The Philippine government was not very friendly towards us, and what they wanted to charge us to have a military presence in their country. So, we actually got the benefit of, if you can say, a natural disaster being a benefit, but that hastened our departure from that island chain. I'll tell you now, you know, Philippine popular opinion is such that the Chinese are going to swallow a good chunk of the viability that the Philippines has in terms of doing business with the rest of the world. And
Well, I'll tell you what, those Filipinos are very, very smart because that's exactly what's going to happen.
well, and the sad thing is that there's quite a large population of dual citizen Filipinos and Americans that either served in the Navy, served in the Air Force, or the armed forces in general.
Have
And
any of them served us in our Congress?
y- you know, I, I wouldn't know the makeup of the number of former Filipino members.
Then we can't give them as much foreign aid.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's one of the things. Public opinion was such in the Philippines that America was the evil imperialist aggressor. Not so anymore. We are being begged to set up and reestablish military presence there, because the people realize that it's economically developing for them as a nation. It gives them a viable defense strategy to really uphold their national interests against China, and those two nations don't get along.
Well, there's long-standing ties between the Philippines and the United States, and I mean, a lot of the American culture is all over the Philippines. And well, to be honest with you, the Chinese are still the commies.
Well, exactly,
And
yeah. That has not changed. The main problem that you will have seen change is that as every democracy goes through its cycles, that even as we see in our country, the more leftist side of government, they try and play the class warfare struggle, and when you paint probably your biggest supporter as the most evil thing to happen, it only takes a matter of time for people to really come up with some opinions that don't really support having a large presence of foreign imperialist aggressors on your soil. But now they realize, hey, we are very vulnerable and we don't have a way to defend ourselves.
well, and how much of the push to get the Americans to leave was based in, oh, let's just slightly call it pro Chinese or pro Bolshevik agenda to get the Americans pushed out, and really how much of the quest for cash was really the Filipino government or the people in the Philippines in charge of making this decision. Um, how much of that was them realizing what is actually going on with the U.S. dollar in the world?
I don't even know that the average citizen there has any kind of concern about that. I think what their average concern is that, as opposed to the current Aquino government that's in charge, a lot of them took to social media and were saying, "Hey, you know what? At least under the dictator that was deposed, who was on somewhat friendly terms, the Marcos regime, they felt that they had economic viability, and they felt that they had at least something of tangible benefit coming out of the relationship with the United States militarily. Um, they it's almost like they see the current government as impotent in dealing with China, and they are ready to have that strong leadership, much like you would say the people in Russia feel about having Putin in charge. That the approval ratings, if they can mean anything, constantly very high for Putin. He is the leader that the Russian people want, and maybe that they need. Who knows?
Well, it does appear very, very strange that Putin almost eats babies in the United States media. And people in Russia are very happy. And if not for the price of oil dropping, Russia would be in a very, very nice situation.
Yeah, certainly. And like I said, I think in Russia he at least eats them with a little bit of ketchup and beet sauce, otherwise known as borscht. So, it's all about cultural perspective.
They're not big on sugared items
Yeah,
there.
no. It's too sweet.
That's, yeah.
Too sweet.
So, anyhow, you know, with this weather here, it's given me pause to think about something that really does involve firearms and well, looking to the future with a clear eye. Natural disasters can come, and you've got to think about: do you leave? Do you take off? And what's all involved with that, and how does that relate to your use of firearms? Let's look at these people who lost their homes in a matter of hours in the Central Texas area. How many firearms were lost in that?
Yeah, certainly. And how many will be found, somewhere down the road after safes are broken into or whatnot? Um, Here's the thing, a lot of people don't want to play into insurance. I'll tell you this: every single firearm I own is insured for full value, and not just full value, full replacement value. So whatever it would take to buy the exact same thing, to include any kind of accessories like mounts, scopes, any additional magazines, everything like that I have, that's all insured. It's not cheap to do, but then again, it comes down to peace of mind. I have not had the displeasure of returning to my home and seeing it been broken into. You have. So,
I have.
is that something that you want to put up to chance? Is that, hey, do I really want to rely on law enforcement to recover my stuff, which then becomes the civil asset forfeiture, where they decide that they want something more than I do, and I don't have the money to go against them in court with which to get it back. Um,
I do believe two Smith and Wessons are in that program right now.
exactly. So here's the thing. You gotta kind of hedge your bets about how do you properly store, maintain
Well, and
your
then
firearms.
you also have to really take into account the economy of the whole item, because it's probably not a cheap policy. I mean,
No,
if you've
certainly
got,
not.
well, let's discount the very large expensive rifle you call house payment,
There you
down
go.
payment on a home. Excluding that, that's not the usual average rifle for somebody. Is it worth the extra $300 a year for that?
Well, here's the thing: if you're not buying a Remington 783 on the red tag sale at Gander Mountain, and you don't want to put the Leica scope or the Swarovski scope on it, then maybe it doesn't. Especially if it's just a synthetic stock that you can go ahead and replace with a new stock when you bang the hell out of the old one. It may not be worth it to you. I'm of the opinion that if you buy something once and you maintain it, you'll have it for life and you'll be able to pass it down. So for me,
You do not own Keltex.
you're correct. You are correct. So and speaking of something that I did this weekend, which can really tie into this. I got a chance to actually take apart the Winchester 1400 that I've come into possession of recently. And if we got a second, I'd like to talk about that.
Absolutely, that'd be good.
So, having received this Winchester 1400, Winchester doesn't exactly produce shotguns in this style anymore. This is a maximum 3-shot capacity. It's a 20 gauge, and it's a model 1400.
So the plug was not removable.
No, no, the plug is not removable. I found that out this weekend, and scouring the internet, looking at many different postings that I've seen, that plug actually can break free and come loose. I've actually seen a couple of posts where individuals had come up with their exact, we'll say, field stripped shotgun with a mystery part laid down. And they couldn't find it on the schematic that shows everything in that goes into making up the shotgun. Um, a couple of trained eyes pointed out that, hey, that's basically a stop for the magazine, and that should be permanently and fixed inside the tube. There should be a couple of dimples that are cut into that tube that actually locks into place. So a couple of guys have seen that part come out, and it's been pretty much shorn off. So that's something that you got to take care of. Especially if you own a shotgun, you got to take and make sure that the weapon itself is in serviceable condition prior to going out and shooting it.
Okay, so this part breaks off. Is there a way to repair it?
One of the suggestions that I saw was to start using tack weld and build up an edge, and then go ahead and do a cold weld to try and hold it in place, because that actually it prevents a spring from going forward, and then that spring actually rests up against the magazine follower. So that's what actually gives you your tension prior to loading the next shell. If that goes out, you could have a malfunction, and wouldn't necessarily be a good one. But
that sounds like an afternoon ender.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll tell you what, I actually kind of did this in your honor. I did not look at a service manual. I did not look at an owner's manual. I took this apart on my own, sight unseen, and never having operated a semi-automatic. I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that Winchester should have included a 2.5-foot midget or little person who has a wealth of knowledge about this, and also able to give you foot rubs when you get tired of trying to put the action back together.
Well, did they include like a brass hammer for those really, really stubborn parts that won't wiggle until you actually turn them the other way?
Yeah, there was nothing optional, upon putting it back together. So that was
no surplus parts available.
Yeah, but what I did locate was there is a 3-piece series, and it's a spacer that goes right below the end of the end cap off the fore end. So, I noticed that mine didn't have these fore end spacers, and I've got a watched item on eBay now, getting ready to pick some of these up. So that out of everything that could be missing on the shotgun, I think that's the least of concern. The action arms are functional. The springs, while dirty, are serviceable. And when I went ahead and took apart the action, removed the trigger housing, and removed the bridge, took out the bolt and the firing pin, I will say that this is probably the first time that this shotgun has been cleaned since probably 1964. And being that I am here in Virginia, I could be mistaken, and the carbon dating may show that it was used in the first bull run.
Now, let me ask you, and congratulations on getting it apart without using any kind of engineering tools. And by engineering tools, I mean something that you would use to engineer the shit out of that thing.
Yeah.
Were you able to get it back together and make it dry fire?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I went ahead and took...
Congratulations even more.
Yeah, I took good notes as far as how I was actually removing it, because in my experience, the best way to put something back together is in the opposite end of which you took it back apart. So, you go ahead and you remove the end cap off the fore end. Your barrel will go ahead and come right off. And then from there, you can start working on removing the action. And the action has a single pin that you can go ahead and remove. so that takes out the trigger mechanism and everything. And then from the inside, you'll go ahead and rotate the shotgun over, so you're looking at it from underneath where the trigger well would be, and you can remove a set screw. It's not a set screw; it's a regular screw, but that sets the bridge in place at the bottom of the bolt. And from there, you can go ahead and remove the handle, the bolt itself, the firing pin, and go ahead and clean everything out. And for the, like I was saying earlier, for the amount of grime that I located, I noticed prior to taking it apart that as I pulled the slide back, it sounded gritty. Things weren't exactly sliding right. So I went ahead and took a look, and thank goodness I had a couple.
You mean when you were pulling that bolt back?
Right. When I was pulling that bolt back, you could hear grinding. So to me, that was, there's any number of debris. There's sand. There's silica, whatever. And sure enough, everything in there was black.
Well, congratulations on not just getting yourself like a can of like carburetor cleaner and shooting it in there, followed immediately by like some sort of lubricant.
No.
Congratulations for actually doing that correctly.
No, so I actually let it sit, had a swab going out the barrel, making sure that was cleaned out, and then also going through and hitting anything that was caked with carbon buildup, just to let it sit and soak. Break that stuff up naturally, and then went ahead and started using various brushes and bristles, trying to loosen up more stuff. I think I went through more Q-tips than I have in any other endeavor for quite a while. But once everything was coming up clean, I did use some lithium grease on some of the action parts, just where I had noticed that they had been previously lubricated. And as I got everything put back together, the biggest problem for me was actually getting the action arms on, getting the mainspring under tension to where I could attach the action arms and not have to worry about the little pin getting caught up in the coils of the spring, and then setting in the trigger back in. That was difficult for me, and at that point I sweated out in my garage for an hour before I got it to do it just right, and then I could actually cycle the bolt and do dry fire and just make sure that everything was in functioning order. And then I even went as far as, chambering a dummy round, making sure that ejected properly. And, I'm good to go. Firing pin's in good working order, and it's sharp, and I'm not worried about that and having any failures.
That's great. Now let me ask you this, this magazine, the follower pin, or not pin, the follower shaft, I guess, that was prone to breaking. Did yours look like it had any kind of stress cracks? And did it look to be like a cast piece, or what's this made out of?
Well, it looks to be made out of aluminum. And from some of the images that I saw doing a little bit of research after the fact, it is purpose built to actually stay in that portion of the magazine tube and to not come free. If it comes free, it is in fact broken, because it's got a rim on the edge of it. So if you can imagine just a cap, imagine a deep-throated cap, and probably with a lip around the edge of it, and that lip is what actually fits into the crimped spots of that magazine tube. You've got that magazine spring that's on one side, and then on the other side of that magazine spring is the follower that allows you to push more ammunition.
Is this part available on eBay or Numeric Gun Parts or something?
Yeah, I did see it. However, it was in the complete assembly, so you would need a entire magazine tube.
And what did that come out to be?
I didn't check the price, because thankfully enough mine wasn't broken.
That's sometimes it's better to not seek out defeat.
Yeah, I paid more attention to the piston, making sure that the holes for the piston were aligned and properly cleaned out. Thankfully enough, I didn't have to ream it out to get rid of any carbon buildup. On the end of the magazine cap, however, I did probably pull out a good half an inch of built up carbon. So like I said, that led me to believe that this particular shotgun had never been cleaned. And I'm sure it felt a lot of love for me getting quite the thorough cleaning that it did.
You're probably 100% correct. It's never once been cleaned, and that's really not all that uncommon with shotguns.
Right, and looking at some of the postings that this particular model is an older model, and they stopped making it in '94. So it had a 30-year run from '64 to '94 in various versions. This that I have it's not a vented rib barrel. It is a fixed improved cylinder choke, so there's no ability to add choke at the end. There's no threads for which I can put on a different choke. This is generally a all-purpose 20 gauge shotgun. Thankfully enough, some of the ammunition manufacturers have designed 20 gauge rifled slugs to be used out of improved cylinder, whether it be the Federal True Ball or the I believe it's the Winchester has some good slugs for it, and the improved cylinder also does very well for shotguns when you're looking at doing either upland hunting or turkey hunting. So I think that this is a score in the sense that it's a really versatile shotgun. I didn't have any problems when I did fire it, and there was no issue cycling it. The only other thing that I did notice, and maybe this is more prone to semi-automatics, is that if you dry fire it, that feed ramp that goes right up against the magazine follower has a tendency to lock in the up position, preventing a quick loading of a magazine. You actually have to depress the magazine follower and allow that feed tray to lift back up so you can go ahead and continue to load.
Right, right, and I think that is common to a lot of semi-automatic shotguns, and it really with a semi-automatic shotgun, and definitely with any kind of rimfire, you really shouldn't dry fire them a whole lot.
Right.
A whole lot. Once or twice is fine, but you shouldn't sit there and watch Johnny Western and click your 6-shooter at the TV.
Yeah, no, that's no bueno.
That's just not good.
Yeah, but the good thing is that I think that when it comes down to it, the bottom line was Winchester always played second fiddle to Remington. Remington came out with some designs that were not necessarily pretty. If you can call a shotgun pretty, I guess Winchester was pretty. It was not as functional as some of the Remington more popular models. And not only that, this is at a period where Winchester really started to go downhill in their quality, and people just decided that I'm going to go ahead and go with something that's going to last me a little bit longer.
Well, and you're making an interesting point here. This is about the time that Winchester killed the 1300, which was one of those pretty shotguns that you were talking about. It was
Exactly.
a very, very good-looking shotgun. Came in a variety of finishes. It was I used to have one, and it was honestly it was chrome, and it was they called it the Marine,
Right.
and it was chrome over stainless. And they did a really crappy job applying the chrome, and it chipped off, and I mean it had chrome everywhere, and you touched it and you leave fingerprints. I mean, you clean the thing with Windex almost.
Yeah, and I want to give a quick shout out to one of our listeners, Joe Friday, out there. He actually posted a very good picture in chat that shows exactly what I was talking about in regards to the for lack of a better term, it's the little throated end of the magazine, so where it gets crimped into position in the tube. He's actually got it posted. So thanks for throwing that up.
Joe Friday's a good dude. I know he's a longtime ECY supporter, and he's actually a firearms enthusiast himself. And I meet with him in chat every once in a while, and he's always got some good words, and he enjoys shooting himself. So, and he's a collector. So, how are you doing, Joe?
I think that when it comes down to this, you're right. They had the Winchester 1200, 1300, the 1400. There was even the Ted Williams that was made by Winchester, but marketed through Sears. And a lot of those, like I said, they were the pretty guns, but form and functional. I think Winchester they played second fiddle to Remington. Now fast forward to these days. Winchester's got some semi-automatics that are out there. You take a look at their new models. I think they're the SX series,
Yeah,
And
those have all haven't those all been recalled?
well, they still got them out there. So you take a look. You're kind of damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't, because you got to figure the Remington 1187s. They go through their series where they have recalls. The only way that you're really going to avoid recalls these days if you go with a pump or you go with a brake action.
Well, Mossberg hasn't had any recalls on their semi-automatic shotguns, and I mean Mossberg would not be in the pretty shotgun category.
No, exactly.
Mossbergs are definitely more utilitarian, very well. To be honest with you, I wouldn't even call them crude. I'd just call them
Functional.
uh, aesthetically unpleasing to people who are a little bit snobby.
Yeah, and when you think about it, when you're shooting a shotgun, unless you're hunting with a governor, and like you're doing the governor of Virginia's hunt, yeah, you don't need to bring out the pretty shotgun. You need something that gets the job done.
If you're doing the vice president's hunt with Dick Cheney, wear body armor to the face.
Yeah, yeah, but no,
and make sure you apologize if you happen to get shot.
yeah. Well, I think that this being my first semi-automatic shotgun, I was glad to get the learning experience out of, actually taking it apart, seeing all the components and really getting a chance to fiddle around with it. I really enjoyed working around the trigger group, seeing how everything worked there. And like I said, putting it back together, I think by the time I had finally gotten it to where the pin lined up perfectly so that I could go ahead and lock down the trigger, I was at that point where it's like, well, you know what? If I don't do it now, it's never going to get done. So I better just sit here and finish it.
Well, you did everything right with this semi-automatic shotgun because number one, for it being your very first, you didn't break the bank on it.
Oh no, certainly not. And that's one of the things that when I look at what people are trying to attempt to charge in terms of selling a used semi-automatic shotgun, I think I did fairly well. And you can look to spend anywhere from $350 to $450 on a decent semi-automatic shotgun. But here's the thing, it's going to be new or newer than this. And when you take a look at it, you would hope that maybe the shotgun has a little bit of history, and maybe it had been neglected, maybe it sat in somebody's safe for a while. But if you believe that guns have souls, I think this one was happy.
I was probably used to take more than a few birds and probably fed a couple of meals out of it. That's a pretty nice deal right there.
Yeah.
All right, so if you were going to be in the market for a pump shotgun, who are you buying?
That's gosh, I want to say that it's going to be Mossberg. In terms of a pump shotgun, almost every time. You hear everybody talk about Remington shotguns, Remington. But I'll tell you what, you probably on the low end you can go with the Mossberg 88. You can go up to the 500 series. You get into the 590s. There's so many that I think they have an 835 Mossberg model 835 that shoots.
That's the semi-automatic right there.
Oh, well, are you sure? Because I thought that was the one that the 3.5-inch Magnum shells.
Yeah, I believe that's the semi-automatic, the 835.
Yeah, okay. Well, I know that the 500 series you can't go wrong. The Maverick 88s, especially with the extended magazine, that is almost the perfect home defense shotgun right there.
Right. I'm going to have to agree with you with the going with the Mossberg line. Something that I'm going to throw at you that may be a little interesting is I would go with one of the Hawk Remington 870s before I went with the brand new Remington 870s. And Hawk, for anybody who doesn't know, Hawk Industries is a Chinese company that makes a copy of the Remington 870. And while it's cruder in its appearance and fit and finish, its function is superior to the current Remington 870s. And that's kind of sad.
Well, hey, I just wanted to go ahead and just to update you. Yeah, that 835 is a pump shotgun. That is the Ultimag, and it is the first 3.5-inch Magnum.
I am mistaken. I'm sorry. I thought that was the It must be what is it, the 930
Yeah,
is,
I think that 930 is what you're talking about.
well, you get over about 590 with Mossbergs, and I've almost lost interest in
Yeah.
them.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, I think when people really look at the form and function, one of the things that I know that at least my Mossberg 500 has is the ported barrel. So you want to go ahead and look at how is this going to really be able to handle the expansion of the gases. And when you think about it, porting a barrel is kind of like putting a silencer on a shotgun if you look at it.
I personally don't like ported barrels, and to be honest with you, I've not shot one with out of a shotgun, but every handgun that I've had with a ported barrel has been something that I would say, yeah, let's sell this thing.
Right.
I'm not necessarily a fan of venting gas straight up. But at the most 6 inches away from your hand. It's and well, to be honest with you, everything that I've found that they sell ported as a regular item tends to be a self-defense short 2-inch barrel, 357 Magnum revolver, a 9 millimeter Derringer, or a 1911 with a 3-inch barrel with ports in it.
Yeah.
And I find that to be kind of dangerous, because if these are supposed to be pocket weapons, something that you throw in the jacket pocket on the way into the stop and rob, or you're going to carry this, as you whatever, just in a pair of shorts, you're out running around, decide to grab that self defense. If you have to fire it from within your say your jacket pocket, well, that's putting a whole lot of flame.
Oh yeah.
Right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, you got some
And
hot gases that are expanding very rapidly in a very short time.
right. And, depending on which weapon it was, if there's any interference with those gases, you may have problems cycling the pistol.
Yeah, and like I said, the only other firearm that I have that is ported is the Glock Model 35 that I own, and that is
That's not necessarily a concealed weapon.
no, certainly not. That is the long slide competition model of the 40 caliber. But when you come down to it, I've actually had some of the barrels on some of the rifles that I own fitted with muzzle brakes, and I'll tell you what, it did make a noticeable difference in two ways. One, there was a reduction in what I felt as recoil, but even more important, there was an increase in what I believe was damaging noise that can really mess up somebody's hearing. So, having shot that a couple of times, I've actually decided to go ahead and take the muzzle brake off and just return back to the regular target crown and throw a thread cap protector on there and just go with that.
I'm kind of with you on that, and especially amongst the AR-15 series rifles that I found that every muzzle brake is just a loudener.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that in terms of what is a true muzzle brake versus what is a flash hider or a compensator, whatever you want to call it. I think that when you're talking about a muzzle brake, you're talking about something that is actually going to vent the gases away, trying to lessen the recoil. Some of the AR-15 birdcage style, I wouldn't even consider those to be a muzzle brake, because while they do vent,
No, absolutely not. It's
Yeah.
it's merely a flash hider, and the military sees the difference in that, because it doesn't have any of those gas dispersing properties that
Right. Exactly.
that the muzzle brakes do. And to be quite honest with you, in the 5.56 of the 223 round, a muzzle brake is purely for show.
Yeah, and like I said, when I'm actually firing the big boy, the 8 millimeter Mauser,
That rifle was issued by the Chancellor of War or whatever he was. Did that come with some sort of muzzle brake on it?
no, not at the time it was originally issued. So the idea for me was to lessen the damage that I was feeling, for my shoulders, which aren't the greatest. And while I don't regret getting the barrels threaded, because they were just standard target crowns before, The only problem was is that being overseas in Germany, they were threaded with a metric thread pattern, which was the M15 by 1. So in the United States, you've got two main thread patterns. You've got the 22 caliber, the 1/2 by 28, and then you have the 5/8 by 24 for the 7.62, so the 30 caliber crowd. Uh, yeah, you're going to have to talk to somebody who's a machinist and knows how to operate a lathe, and that really actually has the appropriate tools to cut that thread pattern. But thankfully enough, like I said, I was able to get a thread cap, and I've just gone ahead and taken the muzzle brake off of the barrel that I shoot with, and affixed that to the 30-06 barrel that sits in the safe, and we'll shoot the 8x57 barrel either until I shoot the barrel out, or end up using it as a club somewhere.
Well, at the price of 8x57, I don't think you're going to shoot that barrel out.
Oh no, and like I said, that barrel is machined to precise standards, as we all know Germans do, and that barrel will outlast me, my son, and his son 10 generations down the line.
Yeah, that's very true. They just don't make anything like they did back then. Personally, one of my favorite Browning high powers is going to be the T series high powers, which were made from like 69 to 72, and they just don't make anything like that anymore. The brand new high powers out of the box for $1,200, not like a T series.
Well, and think about it this way: you still see on any of the the gun websites that deal with replacement parts, you can still find replacement stocks for 1903s and the Springfields. So what does that tell you? They don't make them like they used to.
No. And to be honest with you, they probably made quite a few of those replacement stocks, years back.
Right, and you're actually seeing quite a bit pop up for the M1 series. The M14s, the M1As. You see a lot of replacement parts available for those, and I think those are coming back into vogue now. You can't go anywhere without seeing some type of rail system to be able to attach a scope to on those.
I'm sick of rail systems. Let me ask you: do you have any information on the 1911s that may be coming back to the United States that were, I guess, in the hands of the Koreans?
Oh, I will tell you that as long as this administration is in charge of the State Department, which believes that they can put an end to importing anything, nothing that was given away as lend-lease or anything like that was used for a war will be allowed back in until we have regime change.
I don't even think after regime change, because what are we going to get? As it's looking right now, it's Hillary, who really should be headed to prison, or Jeb, which I'm not a fan of Jeb either.
No, I don't. I think his star is waning along with Chris Christie. So
I don't believe that there's a lesser of two evils between Jeb or Hillary. I really don't.
No, I like I said, I think one is vanilla, one is vanilla light. So, what are you really getting?
Right. Well, one is French vanilla, and one is vanilla bean with flex. Do you wish to have flex, or do you wish to have French?
There you go. Yeah. I think honestly, I think back on it, there was a time when gun manufacturers made their presidential model that they proudly presented and promptly went duck or pheasant hunting with. I don't see that happening in this.
I don't think anybody's made a presidential model for Obama.
Yeah.
Has anybody?
Well, did you see the press photo that the White House released a while back?
The one that was supposed to you were expressly forbidden from photoshopping it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. By the way, he had a ported shotgun in that.
Yes, he did. He did.
Yeah.
And he looked like he did not know how to shoulder said shotgun.
I don't think he didn't look comfortable in the photos that I saw. There was like a series of four photos, and he didn't look comfortable. And to be honest with you, nobody actually shoots a shotgun like that. It was, I believe it was a Beretta Onyx, and it was gold and silver filigree all over it, and it was quite a pricey shotgun. I think those come in somewhere around like $2,300, and Yeah, that's just not the kind of, if he's going to go out and be a regular guy, you know, regular guys don't necessarily grab the $2,300
Oh,
shotgun to
no,
go
no,
out
no, no.
and
They're not going to go out and
no.
rip. They're not going to go rip the Parazzi out of the safe and throw that up on the range. You know,
No. You take the kind of one. Well, big deal. It's got rust. I might drop it.
yeah. And here's the thing. We talk about what is the bargain minded shopper going to look for. Mossberg is not the only thing out there. You've got a Browning pump shotgun. Weatherby has come out with a
Browning pump shotgun is not budget minded.
no, but here's the idea. It's not that there's just one out there. Heck, an H&R Topper would do well.
Right now, H&R Topper. That's also a Hawk Industries item. Hawk Industries. If you can pull them up, Nick. The Chinese concern, which they provide a lot of shotguns right now to various manufacturers, and it's one of the only ways to get a made in China weapon right now that's currently new. That's the only thing that's allowed in there in the trade agreement with China right now.
Right.
Uh, they make faithful copies if the finish is not 100%. They are functional. They're made to Remington's older standard,
Yeah, this is
and they
the
still.
870 clone.
It is an 870 clone, and pretty much there's no reports of these things failing, other than I really don't like the tooling marks. The barrel was a little bit rough in its finish to the receiver, or to its fit to the receiver. I didn't like the polymer stock. It had swirls in it or something like that. It's something that's very insignificant. I've just got to bitch about something.
Well, and here's the thing. Replacement barrel from Walmart will run you $149 for it. So,
Yeah. And right there, you almost doubled the price of the shotgun. So
yeah. So, whether or not you're going to pay the 180 for that and then 150 bucks if you want a replacement barrel, you got to take a look at do you want to get a slug barrel, or do you just want to get a general field barrel?
to be honest with you, I'm not necessarily concerned whether or not like my barrel is rifled, or I've got what kind of choke I've got on it or anything. I just like to have nice sights on my shotgun now. I like shotguns that have rifle sights that very similar to the 1300 series of rifled shotguns that they had. I just like those rifle sights on a shotgun.
Right. Well, I think we're getting close to the end of the show, so we need to go ahead and hit the facets of firearm safety.
All right, 4 rules of firearm safety every week, courtesy of PrimerTime. Every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect and ensure that it is not loaded. Rule number 2 is keep that barrel pointed in a safe direction at all times. Do not cover anything that you do not wish to destroy. Rule number 3 is know what your target is and know what is beyond your target. And rule number 4 is keep the booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to fire the weapon.
There you go. That is it in a nutshell. And you know, I can't tell you enough. I feel bad for the folks in Texas who are, they're dealing with this flood of epic proportions. Let's go ahead and give a public service announcement. Anybody who's ever lived in Arizona and has lived near a wash would understand that you don't try and drive into an area that has a flood condition.
Please. Oh, please don't.
And yet we see it every year, and sure enough, I believe right now the count is they're believing at least 12 people have been washed away in their vehicles. If you're going into a low water crossing, don't
six
do it.
Jeep Wranglers and 4 Tahoes have been recovered.
So
Yeah, just because you have a Jeep Wrangler does not mean you're not Moses.
Yeah, and certainly when your exhaust is not above your hood.
No. A Wrangler is it's a glorified buggy. It's not necessarily the off-road vehicle that everybody thinks. Even if you put big tires on it.
Right. Yeah. So just take that and make sure that you don't put yourself in a position where you either have to be rescued or you're not able to be rescued.
Yeah, that not able to be rescued is kind of bad. That especially if you're not able to be rescued and you assume room temperature. That
Right.
is
I,
that's
I, gue- I guess the other big point is that if you do have a John boat, don't feel like you don't have to go out there and try out your outboard motor. It's a perfect
I think if
opportunity.
I think if you have a John boat and you are missing this opportunity to cruise it down any kind of neighborhood street that is flooded, you are missing out.
Yeah, you
I
know,
think you should do it. I think you should do it.
and you're going
If
to
you
get an
can't,
opportunity to be on the news too, so you might as well wear your Sunday best.
wear a nice hat. Wear a nice hat. I would definitely say so. Don't wear that "Kiss Me I'm Irish" T-shirt.
Yeah, go figure. Oh, I tell you what, I'm looking forward to maybe getting a chance to do some reloads next weekend. I've got my buddy Chris who's really kicking my ass in the reloading department. He's probably about 200 reloads ahead of me in my one and my two. And my daughter has actually even been able to do better than me. She's matching me. She's got a 8 millimeter round to her credit, and couldn't be more proud of her because she actually took the time to look at the process, learn how to do it, and then go to do it to specs.
That's awesome. But that just the fact that you're getting your child involved in this is really a good, just a beautiful thing.
Well,
Uh,
I think it was really cool is the sense that she just kind of, hey, what are you doing? How do you do that? Can I try? Well, yes.
that's awesome. And congratulations for you for encouraging her. In the ammunition department, I think I'm going to be on the hunt for some more 9 millimeter.
Yeah, I
Um,
actually received a email. If I'll tell you what, this past Memorial Day weekend, these 4 days we just had, I was kind of bummed about the type and quantity of the ads that I was getting for sales, and I received two from one from Brownells and one from Classic Firearms that were, hey, take a second to remember what Memorial Day is really about. Those who have given their lives in the defense of our country, and those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. So I'll tell you what, good on you, Brownells, and good on you, Classic Firearms. And Classic Firearms did come out with, our Natchez Shooting Supply did come out with one as well, and then they actually came out with a ad for ammunition on sale. So,
as and Midway Firearms also had a nice little tribute to the fallen as well. So
so yeah, definitely go ahead and look up those guys. Um, as we are not corporate sponsored by that, I can say that we're not getting anything from them. However, I'd be really happy if Mr. Larry Potterfield would go ahead and do a glass bedding on one of my rifle stocks for me. I'd take that.
Mr. Potterfield, if you're listening, I'll take as many 15-round Mekdar Browning high-powered magazines as you see fit to get rid of.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, like I said, I think. Oh, it's another successful week down. I want to say thanks, Michael, for having me. Thanks, my buddy Chris. Those the 308 shells are in the mail. Should be arriving by Thursday. Thanks to our listeners in chat. Love being able to interact with you guys, and I'm happy to be here.
Nick, it's always wonderful to speak with you. I look forward to this. I look forward to sharing what we enjoy talking about on in our off time with everybody else. And really like to thank UCY.TV, innovative platform, gives everybody a chance to have their feelings heard, have your voice out there for the masses. I mean, we got everything from us. We've got Jeff Weferson and his whale stuff and all that. Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Boy, I'll tell you, there's just a whole lot of everything here. Tonight, Anti-Media Radio coming up live in an hour. It's good stuff. Dane Wigington and Geoengineering Watch next. That is big stuff right there.
I tell you what, it's all about getting it out there, and there's something for everybody. I think you got to get a chance and listen. If you don't, catch it on the rewind if you can't catch it live.
That's right. PrimerTime Reloaded comes up on Fridays. If you can. Everybody, thank you for listening. UCY.TV, stick around. Great programming. Kill your television. Kill your television. Thanks a lot, guys.